Have you ever thought about how fragile democratic norms can actually be? What happens when that core idea, the peaceful transfer of power, is really put to the test?
It's a sobering question, isn't it? And that's exactly what we're delving into today.
We are. We're looking at a really critical moment in recent American history, mainly through the eyes of Liz Cheney in her memoir, Oath and Honor, a memoir and a warning.
Yeah, the material you shared focuses entirely on her book, which gives this, insider's perspective on that period.
Exactly. So our goal here is to unpack her account, understand the challenges American democracy faced leading up to and right after the January 6th attack on the Capitol.
It's definitely a period that put the system under, immense pressure. Cheney starts right after the 2020 election. And she describes this mindset from Trump, even within the campaign, that basically the only thing that mattered was winning. Full stop.
And that mindset wasn't just talk, right? It quickly turned into actions.
Oh, absolutely. Actions that really question the election itself.
Like those personnel changes at the Pentagon Cheney mentions. Firing Secretary Esper, bringing in loyalists.
Right. During the transition period, it made people ask, why these big changes right then if a normal handover was planned?
It seemed, troubling, as Cheney saw it.
Definitely a troubling signal. And then came the public stuff, like Giuliani's press conferences.
Ah, yes. The ones with the claims of massive fraud.
Yeah, and, okay, the dripping hair dye is maybe what people remember visually, but the point was introducing these completely baseless theories. Venezuela, voting machines.
And the key thing, as Cheney points out, is there was just no evidence.
None.
Zero credible evidence. And then Sidney Powell took it even further, didn't she?
She did. Even more kind of extreme claims about foreign interference.
And you saw how these ideas, these conspiracy theories, really took hold with some people. Cheney talks about her own constituents.
Yeah, believing some really outlandish stuff, like that QAnon-related theory about the Chief Justice.
Exactly. It just shows how fast misinformation spread and, frankly, how deeply it could penetrate. It wasn't just press conferences either. There was direct pressure on states, right?
Oh, absolutely. Trump meeting with Michigan Republican leaders, for instance, trying to get them to overturn their state's results.
Though they did put out a statement afterwards saying they wouldn't.
They did, which highlights the pressure they were under. But the attempt itself was, pretty blatant.
And then you had figures like Louis Gohmert actually filing lawsuits against Pence.
Right, trying to force him to overturn votes. And when that failed, his rhetoric got kind of ominous, hinting at violence almost.
It feels like there were multiple lines of effort, all pushing outside the normal legal ways of doing things.
That's a good way to put it. And the pressure on Georgia officials was maybe the most raw example.
Raffensperger and Sterling, that phone call.
The fined 11,780 votes call.
Yeah.
And the threats against Gabriel Sterling after he warned about potential violence.
And even after Sterling's warning, Trump just doubled down on the lies. It's quite something to read in Cheney's account.
It really is. And don't forget Mike Johnson's role with that amicus brief to the Supreme Court.
Right, the one claiming widespread issues, but members hadn't even seen it.
Exactly. Pushing it forward based on these supposed concerns about integrity, constitutional violations. Paul Ryan apparently called it a low point.
Which tells you something about how even some within the party saw these actions.
Definitely. It shows there was internal recognition of the danger.
So as we move closer to January 6th, the rhetoric ramps up too, that December 12th rally.
The Women for America First rally. Yeah, more false claims from Trump. And that tweet, "We have just begun to fight."
That language, begun to fight, it implies the election wasn't over, that something else was coming.
Precisely. And you had General Flynn speaking there too.
His speech was concerning, dismissing the courts, using that 1776 rhetoric.
And quoting Jefferson about the blood of patriots and tyrants, using history to kind of justify extreme actions.
That's a really dangerous distortion, isn't it?
It is. Though it's worth noting, the Electoral College did meet on December 14th.
Right, and some Republicans, including McConnell, did start acknowledging Biden won then.
McConnell had a plan to say so on the Senate floor. So there was this split, perhaps. Some accepting the constitutional process had run its course.
But then came December 19th, Trump's tweet.
The big protest in D.C. on January 6th, "Be there will be wild" tweet.
That felt different, like a specific call. Cheney says members even met with Trump to plan for the 6th.
Yeah, which makes you ask, what exactly were they planning? What was the goal of that protest?
And the security worries leading up to it were real.
Very real. Cheney reached out to McConnell, McCarthy. You had Debbie Lesko warning McCarthy directly.
saying Trump supporters might react badly if the election wasn't overturned, asking for a safety plan.
And McCarthy apparently gave assurances, which, looking back, well,
seemed pretty inadequate, and the pressure kept building internally, too. Eric Trump threatening primary challenges.
Yeah, against any Republican who didn't fight on the 6th, the party pressure was intense.
It's also interesting that Trump vetoed the NDAA around then, the defense bill. Seemed almost like a distraction or just focus elsewhere.
Yeah, the reasons cited weren't really about the election fight, but it added to the chaotic feeling.
It helps to step back and think about the constitutional framework here. Cheney mentions Justice Scalia.
Right. Scalia's view that the real Constitution isn't just the Bill of Rights, but the structures. Separation of powers, federalism.
His example using the Soviet Constitution, great rights on paper, but no structure to back them up.
Exactly. And the structure for counting electoral votes gives Congress a very limited role.
Ministerial, Cheney calls it. Just counting, not second-guessing states or courts.
The Constitution says the person with the greatest number of votes wins. Pretty straightforward.
Which makes the attempts to stop the count seem even more out of bounds, like the fake electors idea.
Yeah, promoted by Jenna Ellis and others, this claim of dueling slates.
Which Cheney says was just false. There weren't legitimate dueling slates, only the official ones.
Right. Creating fake ones was not just false, but potentially illegal.
And Jason Miller's reported reaction to concerns about this. What's the harm?
It's kind of stunning, isn't it? The potential harm was immense. Chaos, violence, a total disregard for the process.
Cheney mentions Wick advising her that they'd need coordinated action, House and Senate, to maybe adjourn the session if things got bad.
Showing that some were anticipating needing extraordinary measures to counter the unconstitutional push.
And Paul Ryan worrying beforehand that Pence might actually break his oath.
Yeah.
That shows the pressure Pence was under.
Immense pressure. So fast forward to January 5th, the day before.
House Republicans meet, discussing objections, Johnson supporting, Roy opposing.
Even though there was no real legal basis,
Yeah.
Chip Roy argued against it, Gallagher warned it was a powder keg.
Prophetic words, sadly. But the debate happened anyway.
And Cheney sent out that memo to Republicans, laying out the constitutional duty, count the votes, don't object without cause, warning about the precedent.
Trying to pull things back to the Constitution.
While on the other side, Giuliani and Ellis were on a call, still pushing the dueling electors lie.
It's just remarkable the persistence of the misinformation. Cheney quotes a conservative legal analyst realizing...
Yeah, it is a clown show,
Yeah.
but it's more sinister than I was prepared for.
Mm-hmm.
That really captures the feeling, I think.
It does. Understanding these complex events, separating fact from fiction, it's crucial. Platforms like Mindful Moments and our podcasts, using AI for audiobook analysis, aim to help with that deeper understanding.
That clarity is so important. Then comes January 6th itself.
It starts with Trump's tweets in the morning, doesn't it? More lies about Pence's power, the stolen election.
While Cheney puts out her own statement, basically reaffirming the Constitution. A real contrast.
Then everyone heads to the Capitol. Cheney mentions the mace, the symbol of the House's authority. Kind of poignant.
Very. The joint session starts. Objections are raised to Arizona's votes as planned by some.
And then the breach. The announcement comes over the system. Capitol breached. Lockdown.
It must have been terrifying. Tear gas in the rotunda, gas masks being handed out in the House chamber itself.
Ruben Gallego telling people how to use them, stay calm, trying to manage the chaos.
And then the mob is literally battering the doors of the House chamber. Police have their guns drawn.
It's almost impossible to picture the heart of U.S. democracy under physical assault like that.
Then Ashley Babbitt is shot. And Cheney notes a staffer told Trump, but he just kept watching TV.
That detail is chilling. While Phil is on the phone to the acting AG, Rosen, demanding overwhelming force.
The urgency was clear. And for Cheney, the reaction was immediate.
Right. She says she knew instantly Trump had to be impeached.
Witnessing it firsthand. And other members hiding, preparing for violence in committee rooms.
Just unimaginable scenes. McCarthy does initially condemn it, speaks to Trump.
There seems to have been a moment maybe of shared shock. And that bipartisan agreement to go back, finish the count.
A commitment to the process despite everything.
Yet even then, Trump and his allies were apparently still trying to stop the count somehow.
Incredible. So, in the aftermath, Cheney goes on Fox News, holds Trump responsible.
Very directly. And you start seeing resignations from the administration.
But McCarthy, he goes back to the floor and still objects to electoral votes.
Yeah, even after the violence he'd just condemned.
Yeah.
It's a stark contrast.
Cheney draws this comparison. Terrorist attacks didn't shake America's foundations like a president trying to overturn an election.
It's a powerful point about the nature of the threat. It felt internal, existential.
And people started talking about the 14th Amendment, the insurrection clause.
Right. Then McCarthy later calls Trump's actions atrocious, totally wrong, but then visits Mar-a-Lago.
The rehabilitation visit? Cheney's comparison to Jerry Maguire? Show me the loyalty, maybe?
It suggests political calculation quickly overtook principle, and fundraising apparently dried up for McCarthy from corporates after the objections.
There were consequences, at least initially. And finally, Cheney's speech to the House Republicans after she voted for impeachment.
A really powerful moment described in the book, urging the party not to become the party of QAnon or white supremacy, but Lincoln and Reagan.
And refusing to apologize for her vote, standing on principle.
Absolutely. It encapsulates her stance throughout the book.
So, wrapping this up, Cheney's account really underscores, well, just how vulnerable democratic institutions can be.
Yeah, and the real danger of misinformation, of conspiracy theories taking root.
And above all, the need to stick to constitutional principles, even when it's incredibly hard politically.
Understanding this whole period, as Cheney presents it, feels less like history and more like, as the subtitle says, a warning.
It really does. Which maybe leaves us with a thought to ponder.
What is the responsibility of each individual citizen and our leaders to actively protect these norms, these institutions?
What are the long-term lessons here? We're still trying to figure that out, aren't we?
We are. The efforts to understand continue.
Definitely. We really encourage everyone listening to subscribe to our channel for more analyses like this one. If you found this discussion useful, please share it.
And if you want to go deeper into this specific perspective, consider getting Liz Cheney's book, Oath and Honor. There should be a link available.
And most importantly, keep engaging critically with information. Keep thinking about these events and what they mean for today. Thanks for joining us.